Well, in the next half hour or so, we could get some big news in the way of possibly at least three GOP senators planning to release announcements in opposition of the new Senate GOP health care proposal. That obviously could be crucial, as you heard from Mike Emanuel on Capitol Hill just a little while ago. That would be enough to change things here. So we are expecting an announcement on behalf of those three GOP senators sometime in the next half hour or so. We'll bring that to you when we get it.
Democrats are lashing out at their own party after that loss in the Georgia special election. One Democratic operative is quoted by Politico saying, "We no longer have a party caucus capable of riding this wave. We have 80-year-old leaders and 90-year-old ranking members. This isn't a party. It's a giant assisted living center, complete with field trips, gym, dining room, and attendance." Many of the rank and file are blaming House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, you're laughing, for Georgia and for a lot of their losses. Congresswoman Kathleen Rice saying it's time for her to go.
Nancy Pelosi was a great speaker. She is a great leader, but her time has come and gone. Yes, she's a great fundraiser, but if the money that we are raising with her through her leadership is not helping us win elections, then we have to have this difficult conversation now.
But President Trump tweeting about Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, quote, "I certainly hope the Democrats do not force Nancy P. out. That would be very bad for the Republican Party. And please let crying Chuck stay." While no leadership change is imminent, Leader Pelosi was asked about those comments from some in her party. Watch.
Some. We always have this discussion. One is one, two is a couple, three is a few, some. But I feel very confident in the support that I have in my caucus. No, my timing is not about them. My comments is about the issues that we're here to fight.
Okay, I've got to start with you. Obviously, you were laughing at Tim Ryan's quote about the Democratic Party being like an old person's assisted living home.
Well, actually, the leadership is. Look, I've met Tim Ryan. I've interviewed him. He's actually a very accomplished guy. He falls in the line of more of a centrist Democrat in a lot of his policies, but he will never be allowed to rise in the Democrat Party because the progressive leadership under Nancy Pelosi is going to turn it over to the Keith Ellisons. And Tim Ryan, who's from Ohio, who has, good potential to lead that party in a new direction, really come to the table, will never be given that chance. Nancy Pelosi, you heard her. That's hubris. That's power. That's saying you're not pushing me anywhere. From the D'Alessandros to Pelosi, they weren't going anywhere in Baltimore. Look at Baltimore, and Pelosi's not going anywhere.
I do not, with all due respect, I do not think we're turning the party over to the Keith Ellisons. I think we are looking at people like Joe Crowley, who's from just down the street in Queens, people like Seth Moulton, who's a veteran, served in Iraq, understands the military and national security issues. He's from Massachusetts. It may be time for new leadership. I agree. And there are people out there, and it's not the Keith Ellisons or Elizabeth Warrens or Bernie Sanders.
But Marie, Keith Ellison is the deputy. He is the next guy in line at the DNC. The party leadership is part in his hands. And you have Perez. You have Perez and Ellison, who are very much in line with the Obama progressives. And this fight between the Clinton wing of old and the progressive wing of new does not include the Tim Ryans of the world.
I don't think, looking from inside the party, I just don't think that's true.
We've got to go to some sound from Tim Ryan that was talking about Nancy Pelosi being used in the Georgia election.
It's going to be more challenging, certainly. You see these commercials that tie these candidates to Leader Pelosi. So we're asking candidates in these deep red districts to battle the Republican Party. We've got a lot of energy in our base, which is very exciting for a lot of us to see that on the ground. But you got to beat the Republican, and you got to carry this very toxic Democratic brand on your back, too. That's a tough thing to ask a candidate running for Congress.
You have someone within your own party calling your brand toxic. Sandra.
Yeah, and I spoke with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell yesterday, who I pressed her, and as much as she did not want to be critical of Nancy Pelosi, she would not support her. So even those that aren't publicly speaking out, saying it's time for leadership change, like you pretty much just saw there, others are just kind of remaining silent and not supporting her. So there's obviously a huge problem. While Tim Ryan went as far as calling it toxic, I don't know. Are you going to openly acknowledge the problem, Marie Harf?
Well, I think we all focus on Nancy Pelosi. As I've said many times on this couch,
Well,
the bigger issue is getting the message and the policies right for people in middle
Leadership
America.
isn't important?
Absolutely. And I just said I think that we should change our leadership too. But
well, you said maybe.
We can't just focus on that. We have to look at all of it. I don't actually think anyone should be freaking out about losing a House seat that is +9 on the Republican side.
I don't think that's why you should be freaking out. You know why you should be freaking out? Because if you look at the total number over the last few years, it's over 1,000 seats across the country.
And I don't disagree with you.
Including the White House.
I don't disagree with you. And I think going into 2018, where there are dozens of seats of people that is much closer in terms of Democrat-Republican split, House seats that went district-wise for Hillary Clinton, House Republicans who are going to have to defend voting for a bill President Trump called mean. There's a lot more room there politically, and we have to figure out the message.
Do you think Tim Ryan's frustrated that he can't get more acknowledgement from his own party?
You use the perfect example in the Dingles. John Dingell takes the seat from his father, who dies young at 27. Debbie Dingell, his wife, gets the seat. If she serves what is the average term in Congress, that district will be represented by the Dingles for 1 century, 100 years.
All right, we have to
think
move on.
about that. The leadership in the Democrat Party is that example.
All right, we have to move on. 7 months after the presidential election, Hillary Clinton remains as unpopular today as she was right after the 2016 race. A new poll by Gallup finds just 41% of Americans view her favorably. That's the same number that felt that way in December. Meantime, we're learning that the Democratic National Committee raised just $4 million last month, making it their worst May on record for fundraising since 2003. Compare that to the Republican National Committee, which raised nearly $11 million during that same period, setting a new post-presidential record. So I'm going to start with you, Marie. So lowest amount of fundraising since I was in high school. The problem with Hillary Clinton right now is she hasn't gone away.
I agree.
She's still campaigning. She's still doing interviews. In order for people to miss you and to be nostalgic for you, you have to leave. You have to actually do something else. She's still on the campaign trail. Her daughter is vociferously tweeting in a way she didn't even do when her mother was running for president. I think it's absolutely bizarre. I've said that many times on air, and I actually think it's really hurting your party.
I think, and I've said this many times on air too, I do not think Hillary Clinton is the future of our party, and I would like her to be much less vocal and less public.
Have you called her to tell her that?
I'm not sure she'd take my calls right now.
Have you given her the map to the woods to send her back?
But I think that our party, and speaking about what we were just talking about Nancy Pelosi, building on that, we need to figure out who the leaders are. And one of the excuses Pelosi supporters have used for a long time is that she is a good fundraiser. Clearly, we are not hitting our fundraising marks. Clearly, we need new leadership. And that comes from people, like I said, the good Joe Crowleys, the Tim Ryans, the Seth Moultons, the Kirsten Gillibrands of the world.
Look at the example of Georgia, though. It's not just about the fundraising and the money.
No.
It's about the content of the message and the ability for the messenger to reach the public without cussing at them. And don't pretend like that's not offensive, because it really is.
Well,
But just to interject in this, it's also historically unprecedented for you not to be able to channel the momentum into votes, especially in special elections like this. Normally, there is historically referendums on presidents that are just recently elected. I believe in every special election except under President Bush after 9/11. So that should be the big warning sign to Democrats right now, that just simply being anti-Trump is not translating to votes.
So I don't think that the glass is totally full or totally empty in terms of Georgia. It is a +9 district. You can't buy 9 percentage points with $25 million. That's just not how it works. You need a message, and that's a lot of Republicans to turn. And a lot of Republicans to turn. Karen Handel, remember, never had to vote on Trump care. That it will be very different in 2018 when there are incumbents coming home. Let's say they haven't accomplished everything they promised they would accomplish. Let's say they're still saddled with this Trump care bill, and maybe some people's premiums do go up. Karen Handel isn't a good representative of what Republicans are going to face in 2018 across the, I don't think.
So going back to Hillary Clinton, because I mean, she's had a lot of time to think about this. She's taken a lot of long strolls in the woods with Bill, and I mean, they've had a lot of time to debrief, and I don't understand why they don't look and acknowledge, because we haven't seen much acknowledgement of what the mistakes were and what the failures were and why they happened. Why not look back on those and help share those with the party, help guide the party?
Because that's not what the Clintons are about. Let's call it what it is.
I'm
the
just
Clinton
saying.
Foundation was designed to be the money-making arm for the Clintons. Look at Clinton Cash for what it is. Peter Schweitzer wrote about it. We've put this out for years. You know, Harris hit the point earlier that Democrats need to pay attention to. You've lost over 1,000 seats, your state legislatures. You're losing governorships. We've got younger governors like Chris Sununu in New Hampshire, youngest governor in the nation. We continue to grow that base. That is the voting base that will make determinations of state representatives and of course at the congressional level. And that will control the future of either party who wins the lower levels.
That's right.
All right, stay tuned. Vintage Trump. That's how people are describing his Iowa rally last night. The president bringing back some of his greatest hits that propelled his campaign, from border security to the economy. He also blasted the media, whether it will really rally his supporters and give a boost to his agenda.
Our country is getting stronger. It's getting better. We're going to be setting records in so many different ways. We're going to straighten out all of the mess that's happened over the last long period of time.